Welcome. So today we would be talking about how do you write good answers when you are preparing for your examination. So in this session, our idea would be to discuss the kind of questions which are there. Now this is a paper that we have taken from our portal, and this is for your paper 1, the GS paper 1. Now, students who have already sent in the answers, we have discussed a lot about it. For example, there we have taken a question. Now, this question is a really interesting question, and it pertains to the concept of geostratic importance of Black Sea. A very important question. Now, Black Sea recently has been in news, and therefore we need to understand that what could be the implications, the geostratic implications. Now, this is an important question for your GS point of view, also for your geography optional. So make sure when you are answering questions like this, you have a wider perspective in mind. Now, some of the questions that we have talked about here, how do you write answers for those are really important. But moreover, in this class, we would focus on some of the important topics that are really important that we have also covered this time. Now, every time during the monsoon, we look all around the issues of flooding in urban area. So two extremely important topics this time become urban flooding as well as interlinking of rivers. If interlinking of rivers is successful, the issues of waterlogging are significantly reduced. Another important aspect is in light of the climate change, which is glacial lake outburst, right? So another important topic that you can check here is the glacial outbursts which have taken place in the region of Himalayas. Now, another important thing. Recently, a reclining Buddha statue was installed in India. Such other statues in India, outside India, that can be one of the questions. Another contemporary question from social aspects is the current trend of caste system and the impact on Indian society. Now, this is a kind of question that requires personalized inputs. So, you have to be very particular about answering these kind of questions. When we come to GS paper 4, the first section of it has general questions, right? So, what is emotional intelligence? What are the various creatures that are present? The living creatures have same rights to live as human beings, and similar questions. You can sometimes have quotations from various scholars and you can be asked to elaborate those. But again, when you are answering questions like these, for example, you are answering a question on emotional intelligence, or a question says, as a public figure, in what and all areas conflict take place. Now, these questions are really, they appear to be a direct question, but they are actually not direct questions. They are more of applicative question. You need to bring out important studies which can cite where you can give leading examples of a public figure. Those could be from let's say politics field, or those could be from academic field, from science and tech, leading scholars and their ways of life, how they have influenced. For example, again, as I mentioned, quotations are really important. So here we have a very interesting quotation of Dalai Lama. We have no means of discriminating between right and wrong if we do not take into account others, feeling others' suffering. Now, this in itself is a very interesting statement, I should quote. And similar things are also asked in your essay paper. So make sure how you answer these questions are important. Now, let me take a very interesting example here. Now, this example talks about traffic accidents claiming thousands of lives every year. 400 people perish every day. Now, based on this, there are two questions. What are the causes of occurrence and the ways to stop them? Now, when you are talking about causes of occurrence, what are the important things you have to highlight? You have to actually broadly classify your answer into how you would write it. For example, what causes would you mention? First is lack of training. The second is lack of sense of responsibility. The third is, since this is a paper on ethics, you need to know whether the person is driving with a license or even without a license? Are they well acquainted with the rules or the traffic rules and regulations, right? And then how are or at which age are they allowed and they should drive? So sometimes there are youngsters who even don't have a learning license and they are part of the normal traffic, and therefore we have to identify the cause under various heads. Now, once you identify the cause under various heads, when you are writing about ways to stop, now there can be two ways of writing this answer. You simply say that, okay, there should be more vigilance, traffic tickets should be there, more interceptors should be there, more interceptor vehicles should be there, highway patrolling should be there. But rather than that, if you are writing an answer classifying the key aspects, for example, if you are saying lack of training, you are mentioning what could be the possible options out there. If you are saying lack of sense of responsibility, you are mentioning what could be the sensible ways out there. In those ways, if you are answering your question, then you are definitely scoring much beyond what others would be. And specifically for a paper like ethics, it's really important to take into consideration what are you actually citing when you are writing your answers. So this was one of the questions that we have taken from ethics section. Now coming on to the optionals. So here we have a section from geography optional. Here some important terms, for example, monics. Now, when you are talking about climatology, some of you would say that these are the terms we have never heard about. But aquaculture, I would say purple revolution recently is a very, very important topic. Then simple topics which are very obvious. For example, what is the difference between the various types of soil, the types of soil, IUCN classification, the red data book, blue data book, green data book, what is ex situ, in situ classification. But when we talk about some of the important aspects, for example, urban solid waste management. Now, urban solid waste management, we would classify this into various dimensions, right? It would include electronic waste, plastic waste, hospital waste, medical waste, and therefore there would be household waste, then green waste, right? So compostable waste, and this is the way through which you first classify the types of waste. Then you say, okay, whether this waste is useful or could be actually let's say if it is compostable, it could be utilized, right? So that's one way in which you proceed with your answer. And then when we talk about challenges, we can cite examples from cities which have met the challenges. For example, Indore being given the title of the cleanest city. Now, how the solid waste management actually works in Indore is a really interesting case study. We have discussed this in a separate video. Again, this is an interesting and an important topic this year. Durga Puja has been declared as an intangible cultural heritage. So what are tangible and intangible cultural heritage? In our class, we have covered these separately. One of the students is asking for Hindi. So Hindi we do cover on Examrace Hindi. So if you have questions or doubts, you can definitely join there. And if you want to check out the content in Hindi here, you can simply go on to the page here and click the translate option and click translate. In the option you would have Hindi, Tamil, Telugu as one of the options. So you can change the language and you would see the questions in Hindi, and this is one of the ways through which you can actually come back to the original answer, right? Then coming on to another topic. Now this topic is from geomorphology, specifically for the students from geography optional. We do have separate tests and students are getting regular feedback when they are sending their answers right now. Global heritage stone, very, very important concept, and why Makrana marble has been considered under global heritage stone. Now understand, this is a contemporary question, but this is again a very important question from your UPSC point of view, because usually what we have seen is there are questions which do have contemporary relevance and they are asked regularly. So these are some of the ways. This is a mock test only for geomorphology. So the guidelines and the instructions have been given, and those who have been attempting it, I have been discussing each and every question separately here. But this session is an idea to bring into account the kind of questions that you need to practice. For example, those appearing with psychology optional. Now recently we have seen post-COVID scenario where unemployment levels are soaring across the globe, and there are multinational companies which are laying off or putting employees on bench. Now here is a very interesting question from psychology. Various MNCs are laying off employees. Now shed light on this. Now this question appears to be very simple and very direct. But we have to focus on the psychological implications of the employee. Not only just the employee, but the employee's family as well. Because in some cases, there is a single earning employee, right? That has to be taken into account. We have to also take into account the implications on the company, employer who is again an employee of the company. So understand the complexities within the chain. The employer who is saying that these members would be laid off, right, is again an employee of the company, and he or she is well aware that there could be a day when I could be on the same row. Okay, so that is the thing that you have to keep in mind while you are writing your answers. Similarly, which consumer behavior process presents the greatest challenge to the marketers? Now, when the company is advertising the product, what is the thing that they have to keep into mind? How dynamic is the consumer behavior? And what would be the guarantee that if I am advertising one of my products, the people there would buy them out or not? So many things and many dimensions you have to take into account. Once you have all those into mind, you should start writing, not before that. There is another question. I have done physical geography world, but prelims questions, PYQ, practice you require. So yes, prelims questions for world geography, we do have a lot of practice questions which are available. So if you go on to the IAS section, here we have the list of subjects for the mains. Okay, now mains, we are catering to the following subjects. They do have the video programs as well, but when you go back to the prelims, you do have lots and lots of questions for practice both in Hindi and English, and these questions pertain to various other topics, and there are more than 12,000 questions in the question bank which you can practice, right? And here is the list of topics and the number of questions pertaining to those. So this would give you an idea about how in-depth questions are available in each of the section. Okay, so in the national news there are the topics, then you have NCRTs separately, and each of the sections separately that could be addressed here. But the idea here is to bring into account the most important section, that how do you practice and how do you write the questions. And once you practice and write, you definitely get an insight into the correct methodology and the correct answer writing process. So this class was just a brief introduction about the key questions that you must take care while you are actually going through the tests. And then we do have another paper, but this is the first paper of psychology, and this talks about the common concepts and the general psychology. The second paper possessed the questions which were more applicative and based on the recent happenings. Recently there was a DBS surgery conducted at Just Look, which was the first psychosurgery for a patient of depression from Australia. So studies like those again become important for the concepts related to health psychology and medical psychology. So you if you are able to bring those concepts into light, then definitely you do have a cutting edge over other candidates. I hope you found the session interesting interesting. Thanks Raju and others. Wish you very good luck, and in case if you still have any doubts or questions, you can connect us for guidance and sessions on the number available here. Wish you very good luck. Have a wonderful evening ahead.